Imagine a patriarch named Abraham who, upon receiving the divine promise of becoming the father of a great nation, begins an epic journey that will change the destiny of future generations with his wife Sarah. He faces unimaginable trials, including a test that puts his faith to the test. The ordeal in a very distressing moment as this saga of love, despair and hope ends with the formation of a chosen people. Then, as the story progresses, we meet Isaac, the son of promise. Later, his son Jacob, who will become Israel after a nightly struggle with the divine. But what exactly happened during this struggle? What is the meaning of this transformation and even more intriguing? How did Jacob's 12 sons become the 12 tribes that would carry the name Israel? In this video, we will unravel the mystery surrounding the emergence of these tribes, exploring their stories and the consequences of their promises. You will discover how rivalries, blessings and even disappointments shaped not only the future of a people but also the course of history. So I invite you to like this video, leave a comment and mention to say if you already knew this story and here we go. God's promise to Abraham is one of the most significant moments in biblical history, marking the beginning of a special relationship between God and humanity. This promise recorded in Genesis 12, 2-3 reveals not only the divine intention of forming a chosen people, but also the depth of God's commitment to creation. The quote says, "You will make you a great nation and you will bless you will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. You will bless those who bless you and you will curse those who curse you and all the families of the earth will be blessed in you." These words spoken in a specific historical context have been reasoned over the centuries, reflecting the continuity of God's covenant with his people. God's call to Abraham begins with a clear command to leave your country, your relatives and your father's house and go to the land that you will show you. This obedience and faith is deeply demanding because it asks Abraham to abandon everything for the Chaldeans. His hometown was a prosperous and advanced urban center, full of tradition and security. Leaving his family and homeland to follow an unknown God is a powerful testimony to Abraham's faith that he did not question the divine order. Instead, he chose to trust in God's promises, even without knowing the destiny that awaited him. This obedience of Abraham marks a turning point not only in his personal life but also in God's redemptive plan. Underestimated, God not only chose him, but established a covenant promising that Abraham would become a great nation, which would imply numerous and influential future descendants. This promise is the foundation of the story of Abraham. Abraham begins to form a people who will be the vector of divine revelation and later of the salvation of humanity through Jesus Christ. The historical context in which this promise was made is essential to understanding its impact on society. Abraham, marked by a strong connection with family and tribal traditions, calling Abraham God with this model establishing a new form of relationship that does not depend on places or traditions, but on faith and obedience. The promises made to Abraham go far beyond a simple personal blessing. The statement that all the families of the earth will be blessed in you suggests a divine plan of universal magnitude including not only the descendants of Abraham but also all humanity. This idea of inclusion is revolutionary because it shows that God's design is to restore not just one people but all people through Abraham. God foresees a future where salvation and blessings will spread to all, culminating in the coming of Jesus, which is seen in the Christian tradition as the fulfillment of this promise. With this promise, Abraham leaves were taken with him his wife Sarai who later became Sarah and his nephew Lot. Traveled through various lands including Aram where he remained for some time. During this journey Abraham became a wealthy and respected man but God's promise of numerous descendants still seems distant especially since Sarah could not have children. The relationship between Abraham and Sarah is put to the test when they arrive in Egypt in times of famine to protect themselves. Abraham from his wife, saying that she is his sister, which leads the Pharaoh to take her to his palace. However, God intervenes and sends pleasures to Egypt, revealing the truth to Pharaoh who in turn returns Sarah to Abraham, showing that God's protection over them is constant after their stay in Egypt. Abraham and the Ao separated do to the growth of their flock and the need for spatial water they chose the fertile region of Sodom and Gomorrah while Abraham remains in the land of Canaan. The covenant between Abraham and God is renewed when God promises Abraham that his descendants will inherit this land no matter how much time passes and God's promise of a son. Still does not come to fruition vohied Abraham accepts Sarah's suggestion to have a son with her Egyptian maid are the fruit of this. Union is Israel considered as the son of the flesh but not the son of the promise. God continues to reaffirm his covenant with Abraham but what he really wanted was for Abraham and Sarah to wait for the son he finally promised when Abraham was 99 years old. And Sarah is 90. God visits Abraham again and in Genesis 17 reestablishes the covenant of circumcision as a sign of promise. God changes Abraham's name to Abraham which means father of many nations and Sarah's name to Sarah which means princess. This change of name symbolizes the new role they would play in the fulfillment of the divine plan. Abraham expresses doubts, wondering how he could have a son at this age, and God reaffirms that in 1 year Sarah will give birth to a son. The birth of Isaac is the culmination of this story. In Genesis 21:3, it is said that God fulfilled his promise. The Lord visited Sarah's he had said, and the Lord did to Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the appointed time that God had spoken to him about. And Abraham named his son, who was born to him by Sarah, Isaac. Isaac becomes the son of promise, symbolizing not only the faith of Abraham and Sarah, but also the beginning of the fulfillment of the promises that God had made to Abraham. Esau's role in the continuity of the covenant is fundamental. He is not just a son, but the heir to the divine covenant received by Abraham through Isaac. God would establish a lineage that would lead to the formation of the nation of Israel. This bond is strengthened when we consider that God, in making promises, often uses individuals who, at first glance, seem likely to play significant roles in his plan. Isaac is the son who represents the covenant. The link between the promise made to Abraham and the future generations that would result from it recounts the trials of Abraham's faith, provides emotional depth extraordinary and highlights the complexity of the relationship between God and the patriarch. God commands Abraham to sacrifice Isaac as a burnt offering, a request that would test Abraham's faith and obedience to the extreme. In verse 2, God says, "Take your son, your only one whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah, and there offer him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains that I will show you." This command is shocking and raises profound questions about the character of God and the nature of faith. Abraham, in his response to God's call, displays impressive obedience. He shows no opposition, but rises early in the morning, prepares the necessary materials, and sets out to carry out God's command. D3. The journey to Mount Moriah is filled with emotional tension, where uncertainty and pain must be palpable. What is going on in Abraham's mind during this time? He prepares to sacrifice his son, God's living promise. The pain of this thought must be almost unbearable. Yet he presses on, trusting God even though he does not fully understand God's plan. Arriving at the indicated location, Isaac questions his father about the offering, noticing the absence of the lamb. That would normally accompany the sacrifice. Abraham responds with a phrase imbued with faith: God will provide the lamb for the holocaust. My son, this statement is an expression of hope even in the midst of agonizing situation. Abraham believes that God can and will provide a solution, even if it means that his own son will not have to be sacrificed, for Abraham is about to sacrifice Isaac. God's intervention occurs in a dramatic way. An angel of the Lord calls him and stops the execution of the sacrifice, saying, "Do not lay your hand on the child. Do not do anything to him, because now I know that you fear God and that you have not withheld your son, your only one from me." This scene is a powerful testimony to Abraham's life, faith and loyalty that he demonstrated in following God's orders. The experience not only reveals the depth of Abraham's faith but also highlights divine provision. God provided a ram that was sacrificed instead of Isaac, symbolizing the grace and mercy that permeate the relationship between God and his people. Isaac is not just a son. He is a symbol of the covenant of hope and promise. His life is intimately linked to the history of salvation and his birth represents the fulfillment of the divine plan that God had established with Abraham. Furthermore, the unfulfilled sacrifice of Isaac is often interpreted as a foreshadowing of the sacrifice of Jesus, the Son of God, who would be offered for the salvation of humanity. The complexity of love, faith, and a relationship with God that goes beyond blind obedience, involving deep trust in God's wisdom and goodness. Isaac grew up in an environment where love and obedience to God were essential. He witnessed his father Abraham's faith and the trials he faced. He went through things like his father's almost sacrifice. At the age of 40, Isaac married Rebecca, a woman chosen by God to be his bride. The marriage of Isaac and Rebecca is recorded in Genesis 24, where an elderly Abraham sends his servant to his home country to find a wife for Isaac. The servant, demonstrating his faith in God, took the opportunity to obtain a clear sign about the chosen person. Showing himself generous and helpful by offering water to the servants and also to his camels. This encounter is significant because it shows how God guides the steps of his people and fulfills his promises through the generations after their marriage. Isaac and Rebecca were faced with a challenge. Rebecca Seterilite in Genesis 25:21 it is written that Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife, and God heard his prayer allowing Rebecca to conceive. This passage highlights the importance of prayer and intercession in the life of Isaac who followed his father's example of faith. Rebecca's pregnancy was not easy because she was pregnant with twins Esau and Jacob. However, in this video we will focus on Jacob. His story it begins even before his birth with a prophecy that already announced the rivalries that would define life. In Genesis 25:23 God reveals to Rebecca that she carries twins in her womb, that two nations are in her womb, two peoples of you will separate, one will be stronger than the other and the other will serve the younger. This statement not only indicates rivalry between Jacob and his brother Esau but also suggests that the future of the two nations would be linked to the fact that they were born first and are described as a robust man and hunter, while Jacob is presented as a quieter man living in tents. This difference in personality and lifestyle is reflected in the dynamics between the two brothers. Esau as the firstborn had rights that traditionally guaranteed him a prominent position in the family, including blessing and inheritance. However, the rivalry between them is accentuated by a series of events that illustrate the complexity of family relationships and the theme of divine choice that permeates the entire biblical narrative. The issue of God's rights becomes central to the relationship between Jacob and Esau. One day when Esau returned from the field exhausted and hungry, he found Jacob preparing a desperate soup. In the end, Esau asked Jacob to give him some food. Taking advantage of the situation, Jacob proposed a deal. He would give the soup to Esau in exchange for his right to eat. Esau, driven by hunger, despised his right, declaring he will die. What uses this right to eat stone? So for a plate of lentils Esau sold his right to eat to Jacob. This event highlights Esau's recklessness and Jacob's cunning, while also showing how impulsive decisions can have lasting consequences. The rivalry between the brothers intensifies when it comes to blessing their father Isaac, already old and having lost his sight, decided to bless Esau, his favorite son, before he died. Rebecca, upon hearing the conversation between Isaac and Esau, came up with a plan to ensure that the blessing reached Jacob. She prepared a soup identical to the one Isaac was used to receive from Esau and disguised Jacob with goat posto that he could pass himself off as his brother. When Jacob appeared before Isaac to receive the blessing, the interaction was tense. Isaac suspiciously asked if he was really Esau, and Jacob responded with the state, claiming that he was his brother. Isaac again hesitantly as Jacob to come closer so that he can touch him and sell his clothes, a way of confirming his identity. Rebecca's plan seems to work and Isaac finally blesses Jacob, stating that God will give you the dew of heaven and the fat of the earth, and that he will grant you an abundance of grain and wine, that the peoples will serve you and the nations will bow down to you. Be the Lord of your brothers, and that your mother S sons will bow down to you. This blessing is not only a recognition of social position but also a prophetic statement about the future of Jacob and his descendants. Thus Jacob becomes the bearer of the promises that God had made to Abraham and Isaac. However, shortly after the blessing has been given, Esau returns from the fields when he discovers what has happened. His anger and his sense of betrayal are palpable. His creations in despair. You have not kept a blessing for me. Isaac, understanding the gravity of the mistake, states that the blessing given to Jacob is irrevocable, a fundamental principle in the traditions of the team consumed by anger as a promises. Revenge against Jacob, which forces Rebekah to send Jacob to live with his brother Laban in Aram away from your wrath. This dynamic between Jacob and Esau not only reveals the complexity of family relationships but also reflects broader themes about God's plan. God's choice to favor Jacob, the Auger, is a recurring theme in biblical history, where God often shows those even the world considers weak or despicable to fulfill his purposes. This pattern highlights the sovereignty of God who acts in the midst of human weaknesses and failures. Jacob's story is not just a story of rivalry and deception. It also shows how God is present in the lives of his servants, shaping events to fulfill his promises. Jacob's life, marked by challenges and transformations, illustrates the journey of a man who will become the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. His rivalry with Esau is not an end but the beginning of a deeper relationship with God. Deception, although morally questionable, does not prevent Jacob from becoming a central figure in the history of redemption. A testament to God's power to transform complicated situations into opportunities for his sovereign plan. After leaving his father's house and spending years in Aram under the care of his uncle Laban, Jacob returns to the land of his ancestors. He is aware of his tumultuous past with Esau and fears the reaction of his brother, who had sworn revenge because of the usurpation of the blessing. Attention increases as Jacob approaches the land he had left the day before the encounter. He prepares for an imminent confrontation by dividing his group into two to ensure that if Esau attacked part of his family and his possessions, he could escape insecurity and fear. Invade his mind and heart, which leads him to pray to God for protection and assistance. That night an extraordinary event occurs. Jacob finds himself wrestling with a divine being, an encounter that is both physical and spiritual. The text does not specify the identity of this wrestler but many interpreters see him as an angel of God, or even a direct manifestation of God himself. The fight is intense and prolonged. Jacob clings together to his opponent. This act of resistance is significant. Jacob does not surrender easily, demonstrating a fierce determination to obtain a blessing. During this fight, the divine being touches Jacob's hip, wounding him and leaving him limp but even wounded. Jacob refuses to release his opponent until a blessing is granted him. This is not simply a physical fight. It represents Jacob's inner struggle as he wrestles with his own insecurities, his sins and the legacy of the state that marks his life. This fight symbolizes the search of a deeper identity, a transformation that would make him more than a simple usurper when the divine being as Jacob. His name transfers Jacob, which means he who takes the or subplans. This answer evokes his past and the nature of his actions. In response to the divine being declares that his name will no longer be Jacob but Israel, because you have wrestled with God and with men and have conquered. This new identity. Israel means he who wrestles with God or Prince of God. It is a recognition not only of his struggle but also of his victory in obtaining the longed for blessing. Jacob's transformation into Israel has a profound meaning because it is not limited to a simple change of name. It represents a change of character and a new direction in his life. Jacob the supplanter becomes Israel the prince. This new identity carries a leadership responsibility which is to guide future generations, notably the 12 tribes that would arise from his sons. Jacob's struggle with the divine being marks a moment when he is not only seeking a blessing but also a new understanding of his place in God's plan. As Israel, Jacob becomes the patriarch of the 12 tribes. It descended from his sons. This transformation foreshadows the challenges and triumphs that Israel as a nation would encounter. The tribes descended from his sons Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judas, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Nephtali, Gad, Aser, Ephraim, and Manasseh would play significant roles in Israel's history. It with their own identity and heritage. The name Israel thus becomes not just a personal name, but a symbol of the nation that would form from it, a people chosen by God. Jacob's wrestling is also a metaphor for the ongoing struggle that the people of Israel would face throughout their history. As Jacob wrestled with God and prevailed, the nation of Israel would face challenges that would test their faith, their will, and their will, identity and their commitment to the God who called them. This story offers a deep understanding of the idea that although the struggle might be difficult, perseverance and the search for God lead to transformation and a deeper relationship with Him. The 12 sons of Jacob, born of his wives and concubines, are central figures in the formation of the 12 tribes of Israel. Their story is not only a chronicle of complex family relationships but also a representation of the fulfillment of God's promises made to Abraham, Isaac and finally, Jacob. The list of Jacob's sons is found in Genesis 35:22-26, where it is written that the sons of Jacob were 12 polegadas. Number the sons of Leah, Reuben, the firstborn, Simeon, the Judas, Issachar and Zebulun, the sons of Raquel, Joseph and Benjamin, the sons of Bilha, the servants of Raquel, Dan and Naphtali, the sons of Zilpah, the servants of Leah, Gad and Aser. These are the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padanaram. The family dynamics that led to the birth of the 12 children are marked by rivalries and tensions that reflect the cultural context of the team. Jacob had wives Leah and Raquel, who were sisters, and their relationship was fraught with jealousy and competition. Leah, the less beloved wife, gave birth to 4 children, starting with Reuben. His first son Reuben is often seen as a tragic figure, not only because he was born into a privileged position, but also because of his later actions that led to his loss of status among his brothers. He could have been the natural leader, but his failures, in particular his illicit relationship with Bilha, Jacob's concubine, resulted in a loss of respect and importance within the tribes of Israel. Simeon and Levi, Leah's next sons, also contributed to the complexity of the family dynamics. These 2 brothers were impetuous and violent, particularly during the Shechem incident or in an act of revenge for the rape of their sister. They massacred all the men in the city. The character Simeon and Levi's recklessness led to them being rebuked by Jacob, and their tribe suffered the consequences in the future, illustrating the idea that the behavior and actions of the patriarch should have repercussions on the history of their descendants. Judas, Leah's 4th son, became a prominent figure among the brothers. The blessing that Jacob gives to Judas in Genesis 49 is significant. Judas, your brothers will praise you. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies. This indicated not only Judas' leadership but also the promise that from him would come the royal lineage culminating in David and finally Jesus Christ. Judas, despite his own personal flaws, sought out for his leadership ability and the redemption that resulted particularly in his own story. In the episode involving Tamar, the sons of Raquel, Jacob's beloved wife, are Joseph and Benjamin. Raquel, who initially felt helpless at not being able to have a son, eventually gave birth to Joseph, a son who quickly became Jacob's favorite. Joseph's story is one of betrayal, resilience, and ultimately redemption, as he became a central figure in Egypt, saving his family from famine and fulfilling the promises made to his ancestors. Benjamin, the youngest son, was born during a difficult labor to Raquel, who died while giving birth, adding a tragic dimension to her life and status in the family. Bilha and Zilpah, Raquel and Leah's concubines also bore Jacob's sons Dan and Naphtali, Bilha's son Gad, and Zilpah's assertive sons are often seen as representatives of the complexities of family dynamics and the rivalries that arose within Jacob's household. Bilha and Zilpah were given to Jacob as a means of increasing his offspring, reflecting the practices of a team when motherhood was a symbol of value and prestige. The history of these tribes shows how each son carried not only his own personal identity, but also the conflicts and family dynamics that were intertwined in Jacob's life. Jacob's Vives, marked by jealousy and disputes over who could have more children, generated a series of tensions and conflicts, and Raquel, it into out the other, ended up offering her servants to increase Jacob's descendants. Tim not only strained the family structure but also laid the foundation for a fierce rivalry that would shape the history of the tribes of Israel. So that family dynamics are not just a matter of personal relationships, but also reflect the broader workings of divine providence amid human imperfections. It son of Jacob not only contributed to the founding of the tribes of Israel, but also embodied the lessons and challenges that each generation of the people of Israel would face. The story of the 12 sons of Jacob offers a rich and complex vision of the relationship between God and his people. It shows that even in the midst of rivalries and conflicts, God fulfills his promises in surprising ways. Another very important aspect that deserves to be highlighted is that of Jacob's blessings pronounced in Genesis 49, which represent a culminating moment in the history of the Old Testament. The patriarch, on the verge of death, gathers his 12 sons to grant them not only blessings, but also prophecies that would shape the future of their tribes and, by extension, of the entire nation of Israel. These blessings are not simple expressions of paternal love. They contain divine visions about the destiny of each tribe, revealing God's sovereign plan in the history of his people. The first blessing is granted to Reuben, the firstborn. Jacob describes him as my strength and the beginning of my vigor, but immediately highlights his defects. Your father's bed. You will no longer be the first. Reuben's mention of the sin of sleeping with Jacob's concubine Bilhah leads to a warning that impacts not only his life, but also the history of his tribe. Reuben would lose his birthright as and his role as leader, a privilege that would eventually be passed on. Jude, this blessing reflects how individual actions can have repercussions that resonate through the generations that follow. Simeon and Levi to receive an equally severe blessing. Jacob mentions their anger and fury that led them to violence when they massacred the men of the city in retaliation for the rape of his sister Dinah. He declared their anger cursed because it is violent and their fury because it is cruel. Consequently, his tribe would not have a unified share of land and their violent temperament would mark its history. The blessing of Simeon and Levi serves as a warning that violence and lack of self-control can lead to the fragmentation and destruction of family and community ties. Judas receives a blessing full of hope and greatness. Jacob proclaims that his brothers will be praised. His hand will be on the neck of his enemies. The blessing takes on even greater meaning when Jacob states that the spear will not depart from Judas, thus pointing to the royalty and leadership that this tribe has. Judas would become the ancestor of the royal lineage culminating in King David and, according to Christian tradition, with Jesus Christ. The blessing of Judas thus confirms the central role that his tribe would play in the history of Israel and in the fulfillment of divine promises. The blessings given to Rachel's son, Joseph and Benjamin is also notable as Jacob's favorite son and receives an exceptional blessing. Jacob describes Joseph as a fertile branch near, springing his fertility and the prosperity his tribe would experience. Joseph's story is a testament to how resilience and faith can triumph over betrayal and adversity as he became one of the most influential figures in Egypt, saving his family from famine. Jacob's blessing highlights the importance of the tribe of Ephraim, who would become one of the most powerful tribes in Israel, and reflects the recovery and restoration that God provides even after times of suffering. Benjamin, the youngest son, receives the blessing that highlights the strength and ferocity of his tribe. Benjamin is a wolf that tears. This metaphor suggests that the tribe of Benjamin would be powerful, but it also reflects the challenges it would face. The tribe of Benjamin would play an important role in the history of Israel, but it would also have gone through periods of conflict and devastation, most notably during the Civil War, recorded in Jude v. The blessings relating to the sons of Zilpah and Beah, Jacob's and Maidi's are also significant. Zilpah's son is described as one who will be Attacked by bands, but he will make them retreat. This blessing indicates a warrior tribe that would face challenges, but would be able to resist. Zilpa San also receives a blessing of prosperity, suggesting that his tribe would enjoy wealth and fertility, which would be reflected in the characteristics of the lands they would occupy. Dan the Son of Belial is compared to a snake in the past, suggesting cunning and the ability to protect his tribe. Naphtali his brother, is described as a free home in Doi who utters beautiful words that evoke freedom and energy. These descriptions emphasize the qualities that each tribe would inherit, shaping their identities and their role in Israel's history. The family dynamics surrounding the blessings are equally important. The favorites that Jacob showed to some of his sons and the conflicts between Leah and Raquel created an environment where competition and jealousy reigned. These tensions were reflected in the stories of their tribes. Speaking of tension, we must not forget the promised land that God had promised to Abraham, where his people could live under his leadership and protection. The land represented divine blessing and protection, a place where the people of Israel could establish worship and grow as a nation. The process of allocating land among the tribes is a richly detailed narrative full of historical and spiritual significance after the death of Moses. Joshua becomes the leader of the people and begins the conquest of the land of Canaan through a series of battles including the famous fall of the walls of Jericho, reconquered cities and territories that had been occupied by several nations. This conquest was not easy and involved many challenges including the resistance of the powerful kingdom, and the need for unity among the tribes. Its victory is seen as an act of faith where obedience to God and trust in his promises are essential for success. Once the land is conquered, the division becomes a carefully organized process. The location of the portion of the land among the tribes is done by lot, an act that symbolizes the belief that God is the true owner of the land and that redirects the distribution. The people are reminded that it is not their military conquests that secure possession of the land, but God's faithfulness to his promises of specific land allocations are given to each tribe with the expectation that each of them will establish itself and play its role in the nation. For example, the tribe of Judah, which received a large portion in the south, became one of the most influential tribes not only because of its territorial extension but also because of its future role as the lineage of David and later of Jesus. The tribe of Ephraim, descended from Joseph, received a strategic and fertile part in the center of Canaan, which allowed it to become a power in the northern kingdom. The tribe of Levi, on the other hand, did not receive a specific portion of land, but was designated to serve in the tabernacle and perform priestly functions, reflecting the special character of its vocation. Loaded with spiritual and historical significance, the promised land symbolizes the fulfillment of God's plan for his people and is seen as an extension of God's plan. It is a place where the people can live in accordance with God's law of worship and establish a society that reflects his value. That the land is not just a physical territory, but a sacred space where the people can approach God and experience his presence in a unique way. In addition, possession of the promised land is closely linked to the concept of obedience and faithfulness to the covenant that God made with Israel, includes promises of blessing and prosperity, but also warnings about the consequences of disobedience. The people are instructed to remain faithful to God, not to be influenced by the idolatrous practices of neighboring nations, and to live according to the laws and commandments that God established through Moses. The success of the nation in its new land would depend on the people's willingness to follow God's will and maintain a faithful relationship with him. The division of the promised land is also a precursor of tribulations and conflicts that Israel would face in the future. The story of the possession of the land does not end with its distribution, it stands to a narrative of conquest, defeat, repentance, and restoration. The need to maintain unity among the tribes, the struggle against oppression and the defense of the integrity of the territory become recurring themes in the history of Israel. The challenges that arise after the conquest, including the invasion of neighboring nations and the internal division of the kingdom, reflect the fragility of the human condition and the constant need to depend on God after the conquest and sharing of the promised land. The tribes face the series of internal and external challenges that shaped their identity and their journey. God's promise was clear if the people remained faithful to him and obeyed his commandments, they would enjoy blessings and prosperity in this land. However, history shows us that reality was often different. Disobedience began to manifest itself soon after the conquest of the land in Jude 21.199 we find a summary of the tragic cycle that would characterize the history of the classification. The text says the children of Israel did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the dances. Idolatry became a recurring sin among the tribes. The Israelites turned to the gods of neighboring nations instead of remaining faithful to the God of their father. This change of loyalty was often motivated by cultural assimilation. The search for security in pagan practices and social pressure that distanced them from the God who freed them from slavery in Egypt. The cycle of disobedience and repentance described in Jude is a sequence of events that repeat themselves several times. First, the people of Israel turn away and worship other gods, causing God to become angry. As a result, God allows the enemies oppress them when the oppression becomes unbearable. The Israelites beg for help and in his mercy God rises up. Jude to free them after the liberation the people fall back into their faults to restarting the cycle. This dynamic reveals the fragility of the Israelite faith and the ease with which they allowed themselves to be influenced by external forces despite the promises and miracles that God performed in their name. Idolatry in particular had devastating consequences. The tribes called to be holy and the distant people began to adopt practices that went directly against God's commandments. The worship of Baal and Astarte, the Canaanite gods, became commonplace, and the morality of the people deteriorated. The result was a loss of identity and a deterioration of social and spiritual relationships. Instead of being a light to the nations, the Israelites became like the people around them, thus weakening the mission that God had entrusted to them. This disobedience would have even deeper and more lasting consequences. After the death of King Solomon, the division of the kingdom of Israel into two kingdoms, the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah, ignited the failures of leadership and the need for unity. Solomon's reign, which brought great splendor and wealth, also sowed the seeds of division. The oppression of workers and high taxes generated discontent among the tribes. Upon Solomon's death, this discontent turned into a political crisis. King Rehoboam, son of Solomon, ascended the throne and instead of listening to the wise advice that was given to him, he chose to follow the advice of his young people. Friends to increasing the burden of the people. The result was a rebellion led by Jeroboam that led the 10 northern tribes to separate from Judas and Benjamin, forming the Kingdom of Israel. This division was a direct consequence of disobedience to God and leadership failures, reflecting how unfaithful to the covenant can lead to fragmentation and conflict in the northern kingdom. The situation did not improve. Jeroboam's successors continued to practice idolatry and adopted the cults of neighboring peoples. Jeroboam established two golden forts in Bethel and then encouraging the people to worship idols instead of returning to Jerusalem where the temple of God was located. This choice not only distanced the tribes from true worship but also led them on a path of destruction. Disobedience became a mark of identity of the northern kingdom, which was finally conquered by Assyria in 722 BC, leading to the dispersion of the distribution and the loss of its identity. The southern kingdom, Judah, although preserving the lineage of David and continuing to worship in the temple, was not immune to cycles of disobedience. Despite some faithful kings such as Ezekiel and Josiah, most of the leaders of Judah also engaged in idolatry and corruption. In the destruction of Jerusalem and the fall of Judah to Babylon in 586 BC was a devastating time for the Israelites, as it meant the loss of the temple lands and, apparently, of the presence of God among them. The exile of the northern tribes marks the beginning of what is known as the concept of the lost tribe after the fall of Samaria, and the captivity of their populations. The history of the 10 tribes that made up the northern kingdom becomes clouded. They were dispersed among the nations, and many believe that this dispersion led to a loss of national and cultural identity known as Syria, for its assimilation strategies displaced the conquered peoples to prevent the formation of revolts. This forced displacement led the tribes to mix with other peoples, resulting in a cultural assimilation that obscured their original identities. Cultural assimilation had profound implications for the Israelites, who were once God's chosen people and separated from the nations. They found themselves mixed with a variety of cultures and religions. The practice of idolatry, which had been such a widespread sin, continued to grow among them, leading them to adopt the customs and beliefs of their new home. This loss of cultural identity is a recurring theme in the stories of the exile, showing how a lack of commitment to God's commandments can lead to long-term consequences, including the loss of fundamental values and separation from their relationship with the Lord. The lost tribes have become a fascinating and at the same time tragic concept in Jewish and Christian history. Many theories and speculations have arisen over the centuries about the fate of these tribes. Some believe that they integrated with other cultures, while others claim that their descendants are still among us, but in a disguised form. The idea that the northern tribes could be traced or that their identities could be rediscovered continues to be a topic of interest in various religious and social contexts, e addition to the narrative of the lost. The story of the northern kingdom is a powerful testimony to the fragility of the human condition and the consequences that can arise from distancing ourselves from divine truths. The exile and dispersion of the northern tribes are not only historical events, but also reflections on the need for an ongoing relationship with God, who is the source of his people's true identity and purpose. The loss of identity of the northern tribes is a reminder that when a people strays from their roots and the truths that define them, they can easily become lost amidst the cultural diversity and influence of neighboring nations. What began as a gap in worship has become irreversible loss of identity, showing how disobedience can have repercussions not only in the present, but also for future generations. The idea that the northern kingdom's distribution disappeared from history after the Assyrian conquest in 722 BC has generated much debate and investigation as to where these tribes might be from. Some theories suggest that descendants of these tribes migrated away from their homelands and intermingled with other cultures over time. For example, some researchers point to groups in Europe, Asia and even Africa as possible descendants of these lost tribes, claiming that cultural traces of traditions and even some religious practices can be traced back to the ancient Israelites. Among the most intriguing theories, some link indigenous communities from various parts of the old to the tribes of Israel. For example, the lower Israelites of Ethiopia claim to be descendants of the tribe of Dan, have religious and cultural practices that resemble the traditions of the Jews, and their history is full of elements that connect their origin to the biblical account. Another group often mentioned is the Navajo and other indigenous peoples of the Americas who some believe have roots in Israel due to similar traditions and rituals, from more than 1,000 tribes, during the Middle Ages and Renaissance. Many explorers and scholars sought out lost tribes in the belief that they might find them in distant lands. These expeditions were often motivated by both academic curiosity and a spiritual quest to connect with biblical promises. Historically, some religious groups such as the Mormons have also incorporated the idea of the lost tribes into their doctrine, believing that certain indigenous nations were direct descendants of these tribes. The citation from James 11 that refers to the 12 tribes that are in the dispersion offers an important perspective on the relevance of the tribes of Israel in the early church. James, when writing his epistle, recognizes the continuity of the identity of the tribes even after centuries of exile and dispersion. Renot only mentions the tribes, but also suggests that despite the geographical and cultural separation, God's promise to Israel remain valid and that the message of the gospel extended to all, including those who identified themselves as descendants of Israel. This reference emphasizes that the history of the tribes of Israel did not end with their dispersion, on the contrary. It was intertwined with the history of Christianity. The message of Jesus and the teachings of the apostles sought to restore and unite the peoples, including the lost tribes in the New Covenant. This symbolizes the inclusion of type and the recognition that salvation is not limited to a specific ethnicity or nationality, but that it is a universal appeal in our lives. The search for a sense of belonging and spiritual identity still leads many to explore the origins of their own lineage. As for some, this search may manifest itself in the desire to discover the roots of lost tribes while others seek to reconnect with Jewish and Israelite traditions. The cultural resilience and spirituality of people who consider themselves descendants of Israel testifies to the human desire to find meaning and identity in often confusing and fragmented old addition. The renaissance of interest in Judaism and the heritage of Israel has spread to diverse communities around the world, leading to increase in the appreciation and study of scriptures, history and traditions. This phenomenon is visible among groups who seek to identify with their Hebrew heritage through the study of ancient practices and rituals with the aim of rekindling a sense of belonging. The story of Israel does not end with the exile of the northern tribes, but expands to include promises of restoration and hope that are essential to life. Understanding the relationship between God and His people. The prophecies of restoration, in particular those found in Ezekiel and Isaiah, reveal a God who speech offer us valuable lessons about the nature of God and man's relationship with the divine. The story of the 12 tribes reminds us that obedience and faithfulness to God are essential to experiencing the promised blessings. The search for spiritual identity in an increasingly fragmented world, perhaps inspired by the testimony of the Israelites who, even in the midst of challenges, succeeded, persevering in faith and hope. Reflecting on personal connections to the biblical heritage is an invitation for each of us to consider how our own stories relate to God's narrative, recognizing that the promises made to Israel extend beyond them as well. We are called to explore our own identities and the importance of faith in our lives. The story of the 12 tribes is not just an account of past events, but an opportunity to connect with the eternal truths that shape our understanding of God and His redemptive plan for humanity. So as we look at the journey of the 12 tribes of Israel, we are encouraged to ask ourselves how we can apply these lessons in our lives. How we can remain faithful to God's promises even as we face challenges and distractions in a world that often seems to drift away from spiritual values. The story of Israel reminds us of the importance of remaining rooted in our faith and actively seeking a relationship with God. So as we reflect on this rich history, we can remember that, like the tribes of Israel, each of us has a role to play in God's story. Our biblical heritage is not just a memory of the past, but a source of strength, hope and purpose for the present and the future. God continues to call us to live a life of faith and obedience, promising that if we seek Him with all our hearts, we will find true identity and meaning. The story of the 12 tribes has for us it inspires us to live in a way that honors God and reflects His light to the world. If you enjoyed exploring the rich history of the 12 tribes of Israel and God's promises, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to stay informed about our future videos. Your subscription helps us continue to provide relevant and inspiring content for you. And remember, knowledge is even more powerful when shared. Share this video with your friends and family who might also be interested in this spiritual journey. Together we can explore more about faith, history and the promises that God has for us. Thank you for watching. See you soon and God bless.